Okay, guys, I asked you to do independent practice, page 105 to 106, and then you had to do problems 1 through 13 odd, and then I threw in 14 and 15. Okay, so let me show you the answers first, and again, if you got them right, congratulations. If you got a couple right, feel free to look at the video and see what happened. Look at what you did wrong, look at what I did right, or a better way to look at it, even if you quote-unquote did something wrong, you had to have done something right, because at least you got this far. So maybe you just made a wrong turn somewhere, right? I mean, I'm not perfect, so guys, let me say this again. It's okay to make mistakes, all right? If you didn't do the homework at all, I suggest you try it on your own first, and then look at the answers. But either way, here we go. Number 1, the answer is 1/50th. Number 3 is 7/20ths. Number 5 is 20%. Number 7 is 35%. Number 9 is 7/25ths. Number 11 is 9/50ths. 13, there's two answers you had to look at. For the do not prefer answer, that's 80%. Prefer is 20%, and together it should add up to 100%, which is the whole thing. Let me say it again. That came out weird. Do not prefer is 80. Prefer is 20. Together it should add up to 100%. Okay, for 14, you had to draw a bar to represent the percentage. Instead of drawing the bar here, I figured, you know what, just watch the video, just fast forward to see what you did. If what you did matches what I did, and compare what you did with what I did. Okay, you're thinking. It's always good to see how someone else does something. Okay? And for part B, the answer is 39/50ths. And for 15, I can't put the answer here because there's many answers, and I have to explain where those many answers come from. All right, let's do this. Let's get this done. All right, starting with number 1. The directions are, write each percent as a fraction in simplest form. Now, again, I remind you, you should be using pencil. I'm using pen because it's just easier to see with the camera when I record this. But, you know, if I make a mistake, it's going to get a little sloppy. That's the only drawback. But here we go. All right, number 1. It gives us 2%. 2%. We want a fraction in simplest form. Again, 2%. It's in the name. 2%. And cent is another way of saying 100. 2 per 100. 2 per 100. Now, simplify if possible. And in this case, they're both even numbers. That means I can use 2 as a factor. And that's it. Easy peasy. Okay? The hard part that I foresee for you guys is this part. Finding a common factor. Don't worry about finding the GCF. Just work with what you have, okay? If you have even numbers, go with 2. All right? Always. 2 always works for most numbers, as long as they're even. Number 3. 85%. Okay. 85 per 100. I see that they both end in a 5. One ends in a 5, the other ends in 0. That means I can make groups of 5 or 5 groups. In other words, 5 is a factor. All right. 85 divided by 5 is this. Right? Now I'm just going to go ahead and do it because really, at this point, you know you got to do the work. Okay? Let me give you some advice. If you see me doing it and you see I have an answer and you don't believe me, prove it to yourself. There's no harm in you doing it. You know, I could be wrong right now. You know, the book could be wrong too. So by all means, if you can prove me wrong in a respectful way, please do. Okay? Prove it to yourself. Actually, I shouldn't say prove me wrong. Not that I want to be proven wrong, but it's not a competition against me. It's a competition to be better than who you were yesterday. So prove it to yourself. Okay? Anyways, got a little philosophical there. Philosophical, excuse me. Number 5. Write each fraction as a percent. Use a model if needed. Okay. Number 5 is 2/10. 2/10. So we need to change this to a percent. Okay. We have 2 ways of doing this. We can divide the numerator by the denominator, or we can find an equivalent fraction. Right? Because, just to remind you, if you want percent, that means you want the denominator to be 100 for the fraction. Right? And whatever goes here is going to go here. Either one is valid. It's up to you to decide which one to do. I'll do both for this one just to get it going. If I divide the numerator by the denominator, I'm making groups of 10. Out of 2, I can't do it. I'm going to break this up into tenths. That means each whole becomes 10 pieces, which means I now have 20 pieces. So if I have 10, I want groups of 10, and I have 20 pieces, that means I'm going to have groups 2, right? Or 2 big groups of 10. Either way, 2 times 10 is 20. That gives me 0. I subtract. All right. 0.2, 2 tenths. It's in the name. 1 place value, 1 0. And only a 10 has 1 0. But it's in the name too, 2 tenths. And if you remember the lesson we did before this one, I gave you the place values, right? The pattern. 1, 10, 100 going left. 1, 10, 100, 1,000, and so forth. Going to the right, same thing. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, so forth. But either way, there you go. That's how you do that one. And 2 tenths. I'm trying to look for an equivalent fraction that'll give me a denominator of 100. Because denominator of 100 gives me a percent, right? So from 10 to 100, I'm scaling up by a factor of 10, because 10 times 10 gives me 100. That's how I know. 2 times 10 is 20. 20 per 100, 20%. Both ways work. You decide. Oh my goodness. I did it again. I did this with the homework yesterday too. And didn't I just say with number 3? Prove it to yourself. I looked at this. 2 tenths. That's what we started out with. I don't want this. I want a percent. See if I feel like sneezing. Anyway, 2 tenths. My goodness, I apologize, people. 2 tenths. You move the place value, decimal point 2 spaces to the right. Fill in empty spots with 0. 20%. My goodness. Again, got arrogant, got cocky, and I went too fast. Take my time, do this right. But either way, here we go. Guys, honestly, if I can tell you something, this is why I don't like doing it this way. But if you're not absent-minded like me, by all means, do it this way. I tend to forget things, as you already saw. And this is just straightforward. So you choose whatever works best for you. For me, this works best. Because you already saw I forget things. I forget. And that's not a good thing. Okay? I mean, it's not bad to forget, but at the same time, if you're taking a test, it's not going to help you. So do what works for you. I've been saying that for a while now. Do what works for you. Works best for you. All right, number 7. Let's keep going. All right, it's another situation of changing a fraction. Let's see if I can do this right without forgetting something. Number 7. We have 7/20. I'm just going to go ahead and find an equivalent fraction. I want a percent. See, that symbol reminds me, hey, I want a percent. I want the denominator to be 100. Whatever goes here goes in front. All right, 20 to 100, I'm scaling up. It means I'm making I have to multiply by a factor of something. To go from 20 to 100, it means I multiply 20 by 5. I do the same thing to the numerator. 35 hundredths, 35%. Done. Number 9. During his workout, Elon spent 28% of the time on the treadmill. What fraction of his workout was on the treadmill? All right. So we're going from percent to a fraction. Right? A percent to a fraction. I'll just put a variable. Some percentage to a fraction. And I'm writing this for myself so I don't forget that I want a fraction at the end. All right. So it gives us 28%. 28% is 28 per 100. Now you can't leave it like this. You have to simplify. As I said before, I could look for a common the GCF, which in this case I believe would be 4, right? And we can go from there. In fact, I'll just do that since I know it's 4. 7 times 4 is 28. In my head, I'm thinking 7 times 4 is 28. 25 times 4 is 100. Boom. But just to remind you, if you don't know the GCF, that's okay. It just means you'll have to take an extra step. You get the same answer, okay? Whatever works for you, what I just said, and I meant it. All right, number 11. A survey showed that 82% of youth most often use the internet at home. What fraction of the youth surveyed most often use the internet somewhere else? All right. This is one of those, do you really understand this situation? Do you really understand the concept of 100%? Okay. So here's the deal. It tells us 82% use the internet at home. Okay. And then we have to know, well, how many people use the internet somewhere else? So there's two things we're looking at. Internet somewhere else. All right. Here's the situation. When you have 100%, that means you have the whole thing. Okay? So what do you need to add here to get 100%? In other words, 82% plus something gives you 100%. What is it? You got to do that first. Okay? No? How are we going to do this? In my head, I can do this real fast, but I want you to think about it. You can keep adding, starting with 82 till you get to 100, right? I mean, I know it's Common Core. You probably learned this already. 82 plus 10 is 92. And okay, so that's 92, right? Plus 8. Now I have 100. So that's 18. Okay. That's the fancy way of doing it. Now, your parents probably going to look at this like, what is that? Okay. What I would have done without the Common Core stuff, 82% plus something. I'm going to subtract 82 from here. So I have what I'm missing, and I have 18%. Okay. It's the same thing. Same answer. 18%, 18%. All right. But let's go with this. You know, I'm going to use another page because, yeah. So just review before I change the page because then we can't go back. 82% use the internet at home. How many use the internet somewhere else? That's what the question's asking. So we're comparing two groups. We know, by definition, both groups have to add up to 100. Why? Because these are groups that use the internet. 100% of people use the internet. That should be obvious, right? For this little situation. Internet. It's just that some people do it at home. Some people use it somewhere else. But together, it should add up to 100%. So that's what we got to find out first. And I saw did it this way, the Common Core method. 82, well, plus something, let's go from 82 to 100. Let's see. 82 plus 10 is 92. 92 plus 8 gives me 100, right? And I can stop there. That gives me 18, because 10 plus 8. 10 plus 8 is 18. 18%. The old school method, the way I learned it, was 82% plus something gives you 100%. I just subtracted. Minus 82, so I can get this by itself. It's a little pre-algebra. If you know both ways, great. If this makes more sense to you, great. If this one's better, do that one. Whatever works for you. All right, now we can switch the page. All right, so we have 82%, 18%. Together, that gives us 100%. And again, this is, you can't see what I just did. Oops. 82%, 18% gives us 100%. We're talking about internet use. This is people that do it at home. And this I'll put down elsewhere or somewhere else. Okay, but we want fractions, I believe. Yes, fractions. We want the fraction of this one. How many people use the internet somewhere else? What fraction? So 18% becomes 18 per 100. I can simplify that by 2. By a factor of 2, I get 9 over 50. And there's your answer. I realize that was a lot of work. But here's the thing. The hard part about math is thinking about what you need to do. Thinking about what the problem is asking you to do. Thinking about what the problem actually is. What's the situation? Imagine the story. What's going on? That's the hard part. Because I'm sure that once I showed you the numbers, you're like, oh, I can do that. Yeah, you can. This is the hard part. Okay? So here we go. Let's keep going. 9/50. Okay, now we have 13. All right. 13. Use the table to determine what percent of students prefer school uniforms and what percent do not prefer school uniforms. What is the relationship between these 2%? All right. So before we do any math, again, with all word problems, before you do any math, understand the situation. What is the story? Okay, we're talking about school uniforms. So, school uniforms. We're talking about two groups of people. Prefer, don't prefer. And I'm not making fun of anybody here. If you don't know what the word prefer means, it's a fancy way of saying like. And then this one is don't like. All right, just helping you out here, just in case. All right, two groups of people that either like the uniform or don't like it. So this would be a big yes. This would be a big no. Again, it sounds like I'm spending a lot of time on this, but you got to understand the story first before you do the math. So here's this table. All right. We have, let's see, how many people don't like it? That's 5, 10, 15, 16. 16 say no. And 4 say yes. 4 say yes. Okay. But now what? You're like, but what if I don't get it? 4 students, 16 students. Okay, we're looking for a fraction, yes? So we can find the percent. Because we don't have it. This doesn't give us a percent. But it does give us a fraction if we think about it. Okay. Quick reminder on the side here. A fraction. It's a relationship between a part and the whole. Okay? So here we have 4 students. Here we have 16 students. But we need a denominator. We need a whole. Well, how many students do we have? Because that would be the total, wouldn't it? 16 plus 4 is 20. And let's think about this. 4 out of 20 students like the uniform. 16 out of 20 students don't like the uniform. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now we have a fraction. Now we can go from here to a percent. Watch. I'm going to go ahead and do this because you know I like this better. And again, that's just me. You do what works for you. And you don't have to do what I'm doing, but again, it just helps me visualize where the numbers go. All right, I'm scaling up from 20 to 100. That means I can do it by a factor of 5. Do the same thing at the top. 4 times 5 is 20. 20%. Again, I'm scaling up by a factor of 5 because 20 times 5 gives me 100. I'll do the same thing here. 16 times 5 is 80. That's 80%. And so, what's the relationship? Remember what I said earlier? Let me see if I can do this right. Here, there you go. We're talking about uniforms. Uniforms. We're talking about 100% of the kids. 100% of kids. 80%. 20%. Don't prefer, don't like. Prefer. Like. And I apologize for the sloppy writing. It looks like lick or something like that, but it's like. So, 80% don't like, 20% like. And together, the percentages add up to 100%. And adding together the kids, we have kids that like it. Sorry, kids that like it, kids that don't like it. Okay? All right. Let's do number 14. Oops. That tore through the paper. 14. All right, here we go. Let me just show. And yes, the answers are there, but how do you get the answer? The table shows the percent of Earth's atmosphere that is each element. Model 21% using a bar diagram. All right. You kind of already saw it. Okay. 14. It all starts with a bar diagram. You're just making a bar. Everyone can do this. There's my bar diagram. Now, if you have everything, by now you should understand you have 100%. If you have nothing, you have 0%. All right. In the middle would be 50%. Yes? 100% would be everything. 50% would be half, right, here to here. But we want to show 20%. Or 21%, excuse me. So what's going on here? Remember we talked about this, percentages? It's a matter of breaking this up into equal pieces. Well, we can break this up into 10 spaces, 10 spots, 10 pieces. And please, I hope this works out because it's going to be a little sloppy. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll do the same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ay, Dios mío. Okay. I broke it up into 10 pieces. That means this is 10%, this is 20%, 30%, 40%, 60%, 70, 80, 90. It's a little sloppy, but you get the idea. I broke it up into 10 pieces. All right. We want 21%. By the way, I could have done it into groups of 20. I could have done just 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But either way, we want 21%. Here's 10%. Here's 20%. 20% would be maybe a little more. And that's me modeling 21%. And that's it. All right. And that was part A. Now B, it says, okay, write a percent of Earth's atmosphere that is nitrogen as a fraction in simplest form. All right. Ugh. Okay. According to the table, let me just show you what I'm talking about. According to the table, it says the Earth is 78%. It says it right there. That's how I know. Percent. 78% nitrogen. Okay. I want a fraction. 78% is 78 per 100. They're even numbers. I can divide by 2. that would be, let's see. Well, I know this one's 50. This one's doing my head. That would be 39, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, 39. Now, I know I always say, you know what? Don't try and do it, Henry, if you can't. You know, I'll just show you the work. I had to think about that little one for a little bit. 2 times 3 is 6. Subtract. Yeah, I was right. Okay, so there's my fraction. Easy peasy. Okay, the last one. That's a little thinking one. You have to think about it first before you do any math. Because it's really, that's all it is. Thinking. Thinking. Write 3 fractions that can be written as percents between 50% and 75%. Justify your solution. In other words, show your work. All right. All right. I'm going to draw a bar diagram to visually show you. 0%, 100%. In the middle is 50. I'm going to break it up into 4 pieces. Okay. The question's asking, write 3 fractions that can be written between 50% and 75%. We want fractions that are in between these 2 numbers. So 3 fractions. Think of 3 percentages. Any percentages between 50 and 75. Okay? Anything you want between, pick any 3 percents between 50 and 75. Why am I saying this? As you already saw in the video, percents are fractions. Percents are fractions. So if you pick 3 percents, you can write 3 fractions. All right? So I'm going to pick numbers that end in 0 because those are easy to simplify. So I have 60%. I have 70%. Oof. There's no more between that. But you know what? Let's pick something that ends in a 5. Let's try 55%. So there are my 3 percents. And it follows the rules between 50 and 75. So 60%. Oh my God, there's rubber bands in the way. I hope you didn't get a headache from that. All right. 60% is 60 per 100. Simplified that by 20, by a factor of 20. That's 3/5. 70%. Oops. If I put the denominator 100, I don't need the percent symbol anymore. That's 7/10 if I divide by 10. A little sloppy there. Sorry, guys. And 55% would be 55 per 100. I can divide by a factor of 5. 11/20. And there's your answer. 3 percentages, 3 fractions. So remember, you know what? I'll even put on the sides. Percents are fractions. Okay? And that is it for the homework. Good job if you made it this far. Hope this makes sense. And I'll see you tomorrow.